All around me are familiar faces, worn out players on the low energy Lions. That's right, as the Motor City Kitties descend upon US Bank Stadium on Sunday, get their ass kicked. I'm about to whip somebody's ass. You'll recognize a handful of the guys on the other sideline because they're former Vikings legends / players, including running back Adrian Peterson, defensive end Everson Griffen, as well as safety Jayron. Cool. So let's talk about the Vikings' old friend saying hello today. So starting with the oldest friend, running back number 28, Adrian Peterson. 28 in your program, like 17 in your heart. So he's 35 years old, still doing the damn thing. 2007, former number 7 overall pick by the Vikings out of the Oklahoma University, Boomer Sooner. Now he's the Vikings' all-time leading rusher by far. He's also 5th on the all-time rushing list with 14,537 yards. Would have more than that, but he missed all but one game in 2014 after he beat his kid with a tree. But Vikings punted on him after the 2016 season, and then drafted Dalvin Cook in the second round out of Florida State. Perhaps you've heard of him. Now, this is not the first time that Adrian's been back in Minnesota. 2017, he came in, because remember, he signed with the Saints. Revenge game narratives to come in, but remember, Dalvin Cook ran for $127. Adrian ran for a robusto 18 yards on 6 carries. Then also last season, when he had joined up with Washington, he had 76 yards on a handful of carries. Week 8, that Thursday night game, Vikings won 19-9. Cool. So Adrian has bounced around from the Saints to the Cardinals for some reason, then to Washington, and now is with the Lions after Washington let him go before the start of this season. Now, he did have a 1,042-yard season in Washington 2018, which came out of nowhere, frankly, because 2017, it did look like Adrian had lost a step. Power was still there, but that breakaway speed, it's gone, especially those Arizona times where he had a couple of 100-yard games in Arizona, but dude looked like he was running in slow motion. Now, the speed did come back to a degree, but he's not that same guy. This year with the Lions, he has 85 carries, 321 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 3.8 yards per carry. Now, part of that is him, that low yards per carry. Part of that's him. Part of that is a terrible offensive line. Just not the same guy. Plus, with running backs Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift getting back into the fold and getting healthier, his role is basically just short yardage, goal line, etc. So that's where you'll see him on Sunday. Next up, so number 98, defensive end Everson Griffen. It feels weird to see him wear any other number, but 2010 4th-round pick out of University of Southern California. 32-year-old edge rusher. I spent 10 years with the Vikings. It was a good decade. 74 and a half career sacks in purple. Also, remember, he didn't start until year 5. Because he had backed up Jared Allen and Brian Robinson, and he would do anything possible to get on the field and help the team. He would play defensive tackle. He would be a punt gunner. That's when everyone started to fall in love with 97. Woo! Sack Daddy. You love the attitude, and you love that he was a leader and just simply got after it. And also last year, after he restructured his contract, he still put up 70 pressures and 8 sacks, including a sack and a half in the big-time wildcard win at New Orleans. But then this offseason, he opted out of his contract because the Vikings were going to cut him anyway, but they remained in contact, except the Vikings lowballed him, mainly because they had a Fadio Denebo on the roster, and they believed in him a lot, rightfully so. And then he ended up signing a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Cowboys with $3 million in incentives. Then he generated 18 pressures and 2.5 sacks in 6 games in Big D, and then eventually was traded before the deadline to the Lions for a 6th-round pick. It's whatever. So the Lions, they're going to be without Trey Flowers, so I think you may see a decent amount of Everson Griffen. Extremely familiar with the Vikings. He's very familiar with Riley Reiff. He played against him for a number of years when Reiff was in Detroit, as well as 3 years in practice here in Minnesota. So it will be an interesting matchup. And also, I think of the 3 players, he's the one that still has the most left in the tank. Even though 42, Jayron Kearse, the safety, he's relatively young. So 2016 7th-round pick out of Clemson. He worked his way up from a fringe roster guy to special teams, became a niche contributor in the 3-safety look, became the big nickel playing out of the slot. Special teams captain last year as well. Had 79 career tackles, half a sack, and 1 interception in his Vikings career. Also, remember, last year, the Denver game right before the bye. Remember when the Vikings just spotted the horrible Broncos, a 20-point lead, and then they came all the way back, and it was a big-time goal line stand against a trash team who shouldn't have had a 20-point lead in your building anyway. Jayron was the star of that final drive, made a couple nice pass breakups there at the end. It was great. But then next week was the bye week, and then he had his DUI that put him in the doghouse permanently. Mike Hughes is still vomiting. That's probably why Mike Hughes is playing terribly, because it's tough to cover a wide receiver when you're still just vomiting. But yeah. He signed a 1-year, $2.75 million deal with Detroit and was suspended the first 3 games. Now is back, working his way on that defense. Okay. I mean, it's whatever at this point. But yeah, looking across the other sidelines, you will see some former Vikings luminaries. 2 legends, and then Jayron just getting after it. But, I wish Everson Griffen well, except for the 2 games that he's playing against the Vikings. I mean, if Adrian can somehow miraculously rack up a 1,000-yard season, probably unlikely at this point, but it would be hilarious to see. Because I kind of want to see Adrian break the rushing record, but not with a big season. I want him to play until he's like 42 and just do it Frank Gore style, like 600 yards a season at a time. But yeah, this is what it is. I guess we'll see him on Sunday. But your thoughts, seeing some old friends, let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support that work, pull some of the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.